to welcome everybody back to Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela, and we're still here at our homes. We have a fantastic guest today, Daniel Hernandez, and he's an amazing individual because he's done a lot of things in El Paso and outside of El Paso. But first, we want to introduce Daniel. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Miguel.
Absolutely. So we're excited to talk to you because you've got a lot to offer, lots of really cool information about being creative and just thinking outside the box. So let's start by understanding who you are. Are you from El Paso?
Yeah, well, I'm from El Paso and just kind of expanded out into the world. And now I'm back here again for a little while.
So when you were growing up, what kind of influences did you have? Like, were there individuals that were really pushing you into what you became, this creative individual? And we'll talk about this whole creative ideas and what you do in a little while.
Well, I think what happened with me and how I even know you is that as a teenager in the 80s in El Paso, there was this punk new wave scene, this very alternative scene, which I don't even think they have really anymore.
Not really.
And it was like the Outcasts and everything, and I was part of that group. And it was a creative group. We all had this weird big hair, and we kind of had crazy clothes, and whoever had really outrageous outfits was the coolest, which wasn't me. But that kind of sparked the creativity in me, and that really influenced my life. To be honest with you, it started there. With the music, from the Smiths to the Duran Duran to all that stuff was very influential on me and led me to where I ended up being.
So while we were kind of hanging out and coming together at these parties and seeing all these creative people, the influences are pushing you to become what? A designer, a creator?
Well, I was in business. I think I changed my major about 4 times at UTEP, and one day I was sketching in an economics class when I was a business major. I was sketching everybody in class, and my friend next to me was like, "Why aren't you an art major?" And I was like, why aren't I an art major? And literally after that, I switched my major to art, and that's how I got into art. And from there, everything just kind of snowballed in my life, and it was the right direction that I needed to go. And I had a teacher my painting teacher, Jim Quinn at the time, referred me to this program at Yale, this summer program, and I applied to it. I got in, which surprised me, and that was the beginning. I just started doing this, trying. I just was like, hey, you just try, it doesn't hurt, and that's kind of how I started living my life.
And when you were at Yale, because going from a city like El Paso and then going kind of out there, what kinds of things brought to mind or came to mind when you were over there?
Well, first of all, I realized how easy it was to do something different.
Right.
And then I also realized how I always grew up with this. I don't think it's any longer, but I think growing up when I did in that time frame, this kind of like, oh, I'm just this, humble little Mexican boy from El Paso without any experience in the world. And I go to Yale, and the summer program was all these different these students from different universities around the country. And everybody was the same. I just thought I was the most, I thought I was completely ignorant and, dumb small town boy, and everybody's pretty much the same. It doesn't matter where you're from. And that was a big awakening for myself as well. Like, oh, I'm not so dumb.
Which kind of pushed you into doing other things, because once you graduated here in El Paso, then you ended up moving to California. What did you do over there? Because I know that you started off kind of putting your feelers out for different things, and then it kind of blew up into something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, well, what happened here, again, that same professor, I was told he said, apply to 5 graduate schools. And I was like, sure. I mean, I was working at GCU, I was a teller.
Right.
And I was making $8.60 an hour. I thought I was real cool, And I tried, and I thought, well, if I don't get in, it doesn't matter. I'm okay as a teller. And I got into UCLA, which ended up being one of the best schools in the country. And I got a minority scholarship which I don't even think they have those anymore because I got in under what was that? I forgot the program that it's called affirmative action. I was one of the last
Oh,
years of
okay.
affirmative action, and it was beneficial for me. I'm glad that they had it when they did, and
Right.
I got into UCLA, and it's just like exploded. I'm meeting all these people, and in LA, with obviously there's like it's just it's the world there. Everything's there.
And from UCLA, what did you study there?
Well, I studied art. I did my master's in painting, and but while I was there, it's weird how things happen because my car broke. I bought this car for $1,200 in the newspaper, and of course
Uh-huh.
it down a few weeks, like 2 months later, and it cost me $1,200 to fix.
Oh
So
my
I was on
gosh.
scholarship and I was working as a TA. I still, I needed money to fix this car, so I got a part-time job at the Beverly Center,
Uh-huh.
and I ended up finding there was a whole department called studio services where the big department stores work with the studios with their shoppers, to do either your set up or maybe you're buying the bed sheet for some TV show or you're buying the clothes for the characters on the show. And I ended up getting into that office it used to be called Bullock's, now it's called Macy's.
Right,
And
right.
everybody. So by the time I finished grad school, I knew everybody in the costume and wardrobe departments in LA. And so when I finished grad school, I was like, well, I'll try being an assistant. I'll do one commercial a month, and then I can paint the rest of the time. And that's not. I mean, I was so blessed because I just didn't stop working. It was just like nonstop. I was on commercials. I was on movies. I was on TV shows. I did everything.
So give us a little bit of insight as to what it takes to be part of a commercial, and specifically, what did you do?
Well, you first start out doing all the grunt work, which is just running around. But it all depends. Like if you're in a commercial where there's 200, I did a commercial for it was like some cell phone, and there was a parade in downtown LA. So you get there at 5 a.m. and you have to go through hundreds of people, make sure that they can't wear they can't wear patterns because it doesn't look good on camera. You have to like look at everything and make sure everybody looks right in the same color scheme, and nobody looks too off. And then the main characters have to look a certain way as well. And a lot of times on even commercials or TV or movie, characters have like color schemes, and you can start looking at it like you'll see characters that wear certain colors all the time or
Right.
certain patterns all the time. And you start learning about little things like that and how, like the hero always has, their look is slightly different. Maybe their color's brighter. Only they were blue. There's different ways of looking at things and doing things in wardrobe. It's interesting though.
And
But
how in the world,
go ahead.
how did you get from painting into wardrobe? And what was the kind of catalyst that said, this is what I need to be doing?
Well, I just think as an artist, wardrobe is like, I think even like hair and makeup, any of the glam squads, it's an artistic eye. It's about understanding color and concepts, and also because I kind of, like I said, that whole kind of experience in that new wave punk world, you understand fashion to some extent. And although that was street fashion, but it was also influenced fashion, and it was influenced by fashion as well. And so I understood that, and I knew my designers already and all the alternative looks and things like that. So it becomes instinctive, and when you work with people that they see that you know how to put things together and understand concepts in that way. And to me, it's so easy, and it's shocking when people are like, why would you put that shirt with those pants? And you're like, it's the color. I mean, look at what you can look at these news reporters on TV and you're like, why are you wearing that? Because you obviously don't have a style. Are you colorblind? But it's easy for some people. I mean, I can't do math for anything, and that's,
Right.
I wish I'd had that instead of an artistic eye. I'd be a lot richer.
But I think having the artistic eye is good for everybody, because then you have the ability to create things. Because a lot of people think that if I create a painting, I'm an artist, but I can't do anything else. But in reality, creativity is in everything. Give us some examples of what you're kind of pushing as far as creativity is concerned now, because you're actually doing a lot of artwork now.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of artwork, but you know, when you say that creativity isn't everything, and it really is, and to have just a little bit, even if you're an accountant or whatever, things like that, it's just about how you organize things and how you see things and how you can think outside the box, really. It's about how
Absolutely.
those are the people who are going to progress in life and in their careers. If you can think even minimally outside the box, because most people, like I said, even putting a pair of pants and shirts together,
Hmm.
most people can't even think that far outside the box, you know, even if it's something simple as that. So if you're in some sort of, you know, even as a bank teller or something like that, you can think about how people do things differently, or how you can help somebody differently in a more creative way. It just makes you look better, and your job becomes actually more enjoyable as well because you're using a creative side. But in terms of what I'm doing now, I mean, we haven't even, I'm doing a lot right now because you know, I've been doing embroidery work for years, and I started that because those started out, I started doing gifts for people, and especially like my friends who are like, when I was working like with Christina Aguilera or Pink, and I'd go to their birthday or something, and everybody goes to Barney's to buy them a gift, and I'm like, I'm not going to go spend my money at Barney's.
Right,
That kind of money, you know. So I would make them a T-shirt, and I embroidered their name or something like that, and they'd love it, you know. And it's because it's something that I made for them, you know. I didn't just buy it, and so like
and stitched, right?
I'd hand stitch it, or I'd do appliques, or I just kind of would make stuff up, and I started doing that, and then people saw it, and then somebody called me to do something for their nieces and nephews, and then then somebody else wanted this and somebody that, and it's that snowballed, and I had a really good friend named Ariane Phillips, and she had me do some wrap gifts. She had me do. Actually, it started out. I had made this Frida Kahlo T-shirt for myself, an embroidered Frida Kahlo T-shirt, and we were out in London shopping one day. She was working on the Kingsman, and I was taking her around London, and I had this T-shirt on, and she said, "Oh God, could you think I have to go?" She had to go to Madonna's birthday party. She said, "Can you make me something like that for Madonna for her birthday?" And I was like, "Oh, whatever you need for Madonna, you know." And so she's like, "Well, can you make a little pillow?" You know, and I had never made a pillow before, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Sure, I can. You know, I'll do it." And I did it, and Madonna posted it on her Instagram, and that became a whole different thing. And she did a Hedwig the movie, and then she did Hedwig on Broadway, and so she had me do some pieces for Hedwig on Broadway. That was on one of the outfits. That only one piece ended up on the outfit, but those ended up becoming portraits. I started doing these. It just kind of, I did a portrait for one of her assistants, and then that kind of became this, like, once that happened, people started asking me to do stuff, and then the big thing happened was that she's good friends with Alessandro Michele from Gucci, and he had asked her to make a piece for this magazine in Europe called A Magazine Curated By, and she wanted me to do portraits of him and her in Gucci fabrics because everything I was doing was in different textiles.
Mhm.
And Gucci sent this big old box of fabrics that I got to go through, these amazing samples and beautiful pieces. And I did a double portrait of them in Gucci fabrics, and it hangs in his office now, you know. So once that happened, and went online, and I just started getting calls and emails to do portraits for so many people around the world.
That's amazing. So the portraits that you actually do right now are obviously of people's faces, and then you embroider into them.
The whole thing is embroidered. The whole thing is embroidered. I have examples if you would like to see.
Yeah, let's check some of those out because I think people need to see what the actual pieces are.
Yeah, and people don't really see, unless they see them in person, it's really hard to see because a lot of times they think they're drawings. And it's literally, I'm drawing with thread. I don't know if you can see it up close. I did this myself last year, but this is a fabric I found in my uncle's house, and I made my mask out of that fabric. So I don't know if you can see that it's all embroidered.
So all of the hair is embroidered.
And here's the back, so you can kind of see, you can see all the little knots.
And what led you to embroidering? Was it something that you always were attracted to?
Well, not really. It's just I did used to always make, like, growing up, I used to make clothes for my, like, big Jims and Hulk dolls.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you kind of always did that. And
I guess I always did it, but it just kind of came to me. It just was an idea that I had. It wasn't even something that I thought about. But let me show you really quickly. This is my COVID portrait. I was in the hospital with COVID, and I took a picture of myself and I posted it. And I'm doing a portrait of myself. I don't know if you can see it, but you can kind of see how it works. This is still working on it.
How long does it take to do something like that?
It all depends on the images, and how much hair and everything. But in terms of hours, I would say an average of 50 hours of actual work. But I can't work. It's not like I can work 8 hours a day because it hurts my hands so much and it hurts my back so much and it hurts my eyes so much. So I can work for a couple hours and then I have to rest. And then I might even have to take a day off in between because I get these, you're basically sewing like this for hours at a time and my back cramps up. My hands, some days I can't even, it's so hard to move my hands. So
I can imagine.
All the time. So if it's something really intense, it's hard on my body. So
but
to do a piece.
Is it relaxing while you're doing it? Meditative?
It's very meditative. It's the process of it. I guess it's like old school. It's very kind of feminist and queer in that kind of, in the concepts of how we're taught to do things certain ways. And like the feminine ideas are very methodical and thought out and patiently done, and it's very much in that vein. It's very calming for me to do, and I call it high craft, because it's textile work, which is almost, well, now it's becoming cool in the art world,
right?
But craft work was normally not necessarily put on as high level as like painting or sculpture.
Right.
Masculine, it's masculine to do that. To do craft is feminine, So now that craft work has actually been raised to another level, like a lot of people have been doing it, and it's regarded now, I think.
Absolutely. Another example would be glass work, right?
Correct.
Metal smithing, and all of those have now been elevated. Did you see a specific type of transition between painting and stitching? Because it's basically like you, instead of using a brush, now you're using a needle.
To me, it's exactly the same, because I just use, when I thread my needles, I've used different colors to get certain tones and stuff. It is a lot like painting. I mean, it's just like doing wardrobe too. It's like looking at colors and understanding how they work together. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and I love the connection that you've made between the two. It's like you started off by being this creative young person, and then you grew into being an artist. Then you moved into fashion, which is the textiles aspect. And then now you're bringing those two together into your artwork. Do you always just do portraits?
Well, thank you for asking that, Miguel. Because, well, what has happened, my whole family got COVID, and my mother died in January, and it really—
You rest in peace.
Yes, thank you. And it obviously influenced my whole life, but I had this idea, and my brother and sister-in-law told me to throw away all the bouquets that I had at the house because they were old and decaying, and the water inside was smelling. And I said, I didn't want to throw them away. To me, that's still my mother. And I said, let me just photograph them. Just so I have them documented. And then I thought of those Cindy Sherman photographs of the food, where they're decaying.
Right.
And I said, maybe I can do something interesting with it. Because the other thing I've been doing around town, El Paso, and even on my trips, like if I go to Santa Fe or Phoenix or something, I photograph a lot of those side of the road memorials, the crosses and stuff.
Oh, yes.
And so this whole idea of memorial and life and death and how it's part of our lives, and it's also very Mexican in how we celebrate life and death and honor it. So I still have some of my mom's bouquets, and I'm photographing them, and it's a new project I'm working on, and I'm actually starting a whole COVID fundraiser with it as well.
Wonderful. Well, so since you're doing that, how do people get in touch with you, since we're on the subject?
Well, right now I'm having a website built for this one specific part of it, but on my Instagram, all my artwork's under my nickname, which is Nano,
Right.
Nano Hernandez. So it's Nano Hernandez Art on my Instagram, and I have stuff on there. You can contact me through there, and I have a website, nanohernandez.com. But yeah, I'm gonna have prints made. They're gonna be part of this fundraiser. Hopes my goal, develop a show from it because I have so many images as well. I'm only doing 3 images, but I mean, there's so much that's coming out of this experience of my mom's death, which really is revitalizing my life and really how I see my art and how I live my life. And so I'm really grateful that I got something very positive out of. Sorry, out of her dying, it really like influenced my life. I'm such a great. I'm so inspired, and it's still really raw, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
New. I mean, it's only been around a year, and I mean, if you see what happened with AIDS and how that influenced the art world and the art that came out of there, I think that's going to happen to some extent with COVID as well, because it's tragic. It's tragic what happens.
I believe that that's very true. I think that this will be then kind of a catalyst for people to create more meaningful works of art.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
So now that you're creating different types of art, do you think that this is going to kind of push you into something different, or this is what you're going to stay with for a while?
I mean, it is. I'm crash course in photography and photo editing, and
Right.
about finishes and papers and all that stuff. I'm really crash course. So the thing is that everything, not only in life is everything changing, but I can change what I do as well. Like, because I was like, I'm not really a photographer, and I'm not an Ansel Adams. If you look at my photographs, they're like, it's not like whoever. I'm not Cindy Thurman, but right. I'm doing something and I'm trying. And the thing is, you just have to do it and try. And who knows? I could completely fail. Nobody might buy anything. But if I don't even try, I'll never know.
But I think the fantastic aspect of this is that you're giving yourself an opportunity to kind of grow, because you went from El Paso, then you went to California, and at one point you even ended up living in London for a good long while, and now you're back in El Paso. So you've kind of almost come full circle. How do you feel that that's affected your artwork?
Well, it's been great in the fact that I had experiences all over the world, seeing and living, and that's what's great. I mean, even living in London is that I met so many artists and just meeting so many people, and I actually worked in the fashion world in there for a little bit, which was horrible. It was like basically it was the devil wears Prada. It was so horrible, but I have so many stories. I mean,
those are for a different show.
But it was really gross. But anyway, it was great that I got to have that experience. And the thing that I learned is that you see, even like designers or artists, it's just somebody trying to do something, and they, without them even trying, they would have never even known. And there's a designer, and who I talked to once. We had dinner in LA, and she's British, and she has a big, her stuff went really big at one point, and she said, I made 3 samples, and I went to a bunch of stores, and I just basically, she just knocked on doors with 3 samples of her work, and at some point somebody bought her stuff, and then she became really big, and I was like, all I need to do is 3 things, and just you just need to do something and just knock on doors. And like I said, if you fail, you'll never, you don't know until you try. And that's
absolutely,
leaving El Paso, I would have never known if I didn't try. But I had to have somebody say, it's okay to try. You can try, because I would have never done it on my own. I didn't even know. I still had seen myself as this, it sounds horrible, but I really just saw myself as this, really just this small town, boy who didn't, couldn't I never saw myself living in the world, so I never thought I had that ability. And I did. And I think everybody does, really. You just have to know it and have the confidence to just push yourself an inch to do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody has to believe in themselves. That's a beginning,
That's
right?
all it is. 'Cause there's so much crap out there. There's so much bad art, horrible art at the biggest galleries, selling for tons of money. And you're like, and you always, it's that thing where you're like, I do better than this. Well, go do it. And that's what I'm trying to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me, anyways, is when I go out and look at things like that, whatever artwork I'm looking at, whether it be at a museum or a gallery or in somebody's home, I always think, if these people are doing it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what pushes me to do the things that I do, just like creating this show for the public. I wanted to create something that people could identify with, because a lot of people don't identify with creativity. Simply put, our education system to a certain degree stifles us. And through this show, I think we get the ability to interview people like you and talk to people like you. And you guys tell us a little bit about how you guys have pushed this envelope of creativity.
Yeah. And I think everybody really does something creative. You just have to see it. You have to see what you're doing creatively, instead of like, yeah, so you're a secretary. How do you make that creative? I don't know. That's up to you, but do something different.
Yeah, everybody has to do their own thing in different ways. So, Nano, you told us a little bit about how they could connect with you through Instagram. Is there another place that they can connect with you as well?
Well, through my website, Nano Hernandez. My new project is going to be called The Remains of COVID, and that's the website's being worked on right now, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks it'll be up. But what I'm doing is I'm doing pieces of my mom's. When my mom came back from the hospital, the stuff came back in biohazard bags.
Wow.
And it was really, it was devastating to see my mom's wedding ring in a biohazard bag, my mom's sweater in a biohazard bag, my mom's, get your sneakers in a biohazard bag. And like, how is that something bad? How is that dehumanized? But it is. Because it has to be. It's contaminated. It was contaminated.
Right.
And that's part of where it gave me the idea. So I'm doing these images of these items, and the goal is to have other people send in items of their loved ones that have passed. Whether it's like somebody, you always keep something like maybe your dad's glasses or his keychain or something that reminds you of him that's special to you. Or maybe something that he had on his last days or something. A rose. I want that item. I want an image of that item and something about it. And then I want to create a show or a book based on that. That's the goal.
That's beautiful. So I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you for a little while. Very interesting stuff. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you. I did. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to thank everybody for joining us once again to a really interesting interview with Nano Hernandez. And please check out all of his information online. Thank you for coming and checking us out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.